Welcome to Firehouse No.VI. I'm your host, David Malloy, Director of Public Safety for the City of Novi. And I'm really honored here to have a special guest with us today, Fire Protection Officer Andy Copeland, a veteran of the Novi Fire Department. Andy, welcome to Firehouse No.VI.
Thanks, sir.
I appreciate you taking the opportunity out of your day to come and share a lot of the valuable prevention and public information that we can help make the community safer overall, because we have a ton of programs that we are trying to market on a daily basis through our social media venues, and I really appreciate your efforts in getting the word out. Why don't you tell the viewing audience real quick, Andy, a little bit of background about your history, some of your training and education with the Novi Fire Department.
Sure. I started with the Novi Fire Department in 1994 as a paid-on-call firefighter. Went through all the fire academy that the city offered and all the training here. I was promoted in 2001 to fire protection officer full-time. I've also done some training full-time for the fire prevention division. I'm a licensed emergency medical technician and fire inspector 1 and 2, and I'm also a plan review certified for the state.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the inspection process and some of the stuff that you've done in terms of the plan review and being a inspector 1 and 2.
Sure. All the full-time fire protection officers are trained inspectors, fire inspectors, department trained. We operate 4 fire stations in the city. We go out on company inspections on the engines and squads and do the businesses in our district. We report back to the fire marshal's office some violations that we may find, or we give the businesses some suggestions on how to make their business safer, and some fire code regulations that they need to follow. And
typically, with the company inspections, I think we do just over 3,500 company inspections per year.
Yep.
So that's the amount of time, and they probably take anywhere from probably 15 minutes to some maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm. It depends on their occupancy and what the business is. A manufacturing facility we may do once a year, and it may take us a few hours to do the facility, whereas a retail store, some of the stores at 12 Oaks Mall, usually it takes us about a half hour. We'll survey the store.
So when we talk about the traditional violation, what are we looking at in terms of how are we noticing them in terms of what they have to get fixed?
Yeah. We provide the business owner or manager with a written form of violation. It's more of a recommendation on how to correct a certain violation. It's not a court citation. There's no fine. However, it's state specific fire code, and then the recommendation on how to correct that.
And then typically they have about 14, 15 days, and then we go back to just to do some follow-up to make sure it was completed.
Correct. We give them 14 business days to correct the violation, and then we'll come back on a re-inspection and make sure that they've done that. We rarely have any life safety violations in our businesses in Novi. We have great businesses that we work with every day. They're usually very minor violations, like you mentioned before. Egress doors may be blocked, an exit sign may be out. Some of the systems in the building, sprinkler systems, fire alarm systems, they have to be annually checked and serviced by an authorized company. Sometimes they might be a few weeks late on that inspection, so that would be a written notice to them to have that looked at.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think part of it is it goes along with our philosophy of not just being delivery of fire protection, fire prevention services, but also that going that extra mile to reach out and touch the business owner and say, this is what you really need to do to keep your building safe and to keep, many of these buildings are in multi-tenant complexes like shopping malls and things like that. So you can have one tenant who's extremely cautious and cognizant of the fire code, but another who may not be, and that makes that building just as dangerous when you have someone who's not akin to the ordinances.
Sure. It's a customer service component, obviously, of every business. We want the businesses to succeed in Novi. That's a huge part of what we do. And you're right. If a neighbor is safe, we want the other neighbor to be safe as well. And for all the general public that comes into our city to do shopping and everything, that's our responsibility.
Outstanding.
So, yep.
And Andy, you also have volunteered for some special training that we put to use virtually every day as well, and that's as a child safety seat inspection technician. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about that?
Sure. We offer anyone in the community, not just in Novi, but other communities as well, a chance to come in and have their car seat inspected and looked at by authorized technicians. There's 4 of us on staff right now. It's very limited actually in the county. The training that is provided is a specialized training. We actually go to the State Police Academy to get that training, and we are state licensed to provide that. We'll check your car seat. We'll obviously give you any safety recommendations about traveling with children in cars. Some of the new mothers sometimes are intimidated by car seats and how to strap them in correctly. So we offer all of those suggestions.
And I understand that a lot of folks who when their babies are delivered at Providence, St. John Providence Park here in Novi, that they actually send them down the road to us and recommend that they get that inspection done real quick.
Yeah, the hospitals, they won't let you leave the hospital until your car seat has been inspected, and if they don't have somebody on staff, they will refer them to us. We provide the customer with a sheet that says that they were here on this day and some of the things that we've checked, and that way they can go to the hospital and say, yes, the fireman yelled at me about some safety things and we've taken care of that, so it saves them some time.
And it's really, and I think the big part of that is, again, it's another opportunity for our men and women to engage with community members, but also provide that free service that we enjoy one of the lowest traffic fatality rates in Oakland County in the entire world. And a lot of it is, it's not only traffic engineering, it's traffic enforcement, but it's also these safety and prevention programs that help keep everybody safe.
Absolutely.
Andy, talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of some of the trends in when we go out on these fire inspections. What are we seeing in terms of issues that we're dealing with more often than not?
Well, like I said before, we rarely have life safety violations with any of our inspections. It's usually systems that need to be serviced. Egress doors are blocked, or sometimes businesses are, especially like 12 Oaks Mall at Christmas time, obviously they're overstocked. They have to be very careful about doing that. Sometimes some candles that are burning, we recommend some safety things and some caution with that. Any of the larger businesses that have hazardous materials, they are required by law to notify us of that and their storage capacities. So we check them against that inventory list. That's very important.
And in terms of home safety, what are 2 of the biggest things? Because I always tell people when they ask, and the 2 big things that I always tell them, actually 3, is 1, burning candles, 2, making sure you empty out your dryer, your lint trap, and lastly, but probably most important, is to always have those working smoke detectors throughout the house. Most
important feature of home safety is smoke detectors. The batteries, we always recommend that batteries be changed every time you change your clocks in the spring and fall. That's the minimum you can do. Check them weekly, monthly. Involve the whole family in that. That's a huge component. Even a 5-year-old, my 5-year-old, he knows where the smoke detector is. He may not know how to operate it correctly, but he knows where it is and what it sounds like when it goes off and what he should do. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's great information, Andy. Thanks for sharing that with us. And to you, the viewing audience, we're going to take a quick break here on Firehouse number 6, so stay tuned.
Additional resources I can mutual aid from the city of Novi at this time.
Well, not everyone can be a firefighter. There's a proud few.
It's definitely a job that there's times your adrenaline rushes.
There's plenty to learn, lots of things to do, and it's great fun doing it.
Welcome back to Firehouse number 6. I'm still joined with our guest, Fire Protection Officer Andy Copeland. And Andy, earlier this year, the Michigan legislature passed a series of laws dealing with fireworks in Michigan. Can you kind of give us, in terms of the viewing audience, a bit of an overview on what that entails?
Sure. Throughout history, Michigan has always been a no fireworks state. Only the novelty of very small fireworks were allowed, nothing that propelled up into the air. There was a lot of regulations on that. Governor Snyder, back in December 2011, signed into law the new fireworks ordinance, the Public Act 256, which states that fireworks, consumer grade, can be bought and sold and used in Michigan now. There was a lot of questions that, for the fire prevention community, we had for the governor. A lot of those questions are still being answered by the Attorney General. So we're still getting some of that language ironed out, but the law does allow consumer-grade fireworks now in Michigan.
And what we had was a coordination of efforts between the Attorney General's office, the State Fire Marshal's office, and can you talk a little bit about that? And I understand there's going to be some additional funding that's going to come back to the local fire departments in terms of training and education with their personnel?
Yep, there will be. The Bureau of Fire Services, the State Fire Marshal's office, obviously is running this program. They've already started some of the training programs. I attended some in Lansing already, so we're still getting a lot of that information out. They're providing the local municipalities with a lot of information, so we're getting that as we speak.
What does this mean to the average citizen in terms of when they can use fireworks, when they can't use fireworks, and what might we expect to see perhaps in some of maybe even No.VI or some of the surrounding communities in terms of new stores?
Sure. The state law did not specifically state uses. Local ordinance, local zoning is all still in effect. What the law stated was that the day of, the day before, the day of, and the day after 10 federal holidays, fireworks are allowed to be sold and used by consumers. So there was a lot of questions that were still involved with that. People are going to be allowed to buy and sell. They still have to apply for licensing with the state. That's very important. There's some insurance requirements that a store would have to have. Some liability insurance coverages and training for their employees. That's also a big part of that.
Yeah. So basically, the 10 federal holidays, we take a look. We're talking. Start at the beginning. They do New Year's Day. We're talking some of the presidential birthdays, President's Day, obviously Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, some of the bigger ones. But even Thanksgiving, Christmas, and things like that. The real major federal holidays, and that's really going to be. And I know we're doing a great job right now of getting that information out not only to our firefighters but also to our police officers and our telecommunicators who are going to take those calls, because a lot of people aren't going to really understand this, so it's going to be a good public education piece for us as well.
It is. 4th of July is a national holiday. It's a celebration of our country. We want people to enjoy that. I enjoy fireworks myself. My small children, we enjoy looking at fireworks. It's fun for the whole family, and we want people to be able to do that, but we want them to be safe as well. That's very important.
And I think that's going to be something that, in terms of the No.VI Fire Department, we're going to have to take it up a notch in terms of our prevention and education, because there's certainly going to be ways that we recommend they do it, and there's certainly going to be ways we do not recommend that they do it.
Yep.
What do we see in terms of potentially businesses, and how will that impact us from an inspection standpoint?
Sure. The state law does allow consumer fireworks retail stores to come in, and if they want to operate a store, they're under very strict fire code and safety regulations. It also allows for tent sales, and what I find interesting about that is mostly that's going to be a week before 4th of July is probably going to be the biggest time. It does allow for some tent sales. Again, they are under licensing requirements, insurance requirements, all zoning requirements for the city. The inspections, we'll definitely need to update our inspectors in the field on things to look for and some hazards. The employees at those locations have to be trained on safety at that facility.
And I understand there's some NFPA codes that we're also going to be cognizant of that governs those as well?
Four major NFPA codes. The NFPA 1123 and 1124 is the manufacturing, transport, storage, and sales, and then the display part of the fireworks. That's all under regulation and control. The NFPA 1, which is the fire code, specifically states some safety regulations, and then the life safety code, NFPA 101, which is more for the general public for egress and exiting. That's very important. They have to abide by very stringent codes for that.
Okay. Shift gears a little bit in terms of back to prevention inspection program. We've started a couple new programs recently in the fire department, one being a home safety inspection. Can you tell the audience a little bit about how that operates and how we're not there to cite violations, but what the intent is behind that?
Sure. That's a huge part. It's something I enjoy very much. Citizens can request us, some of the fire protection officers and inspectors, to go into their home. We walk around with the owner, and the one that I went on myself, we had the whole family involved. Their kids were there with us. We walked them around their home, showed them some safety hazards that they need to be careful of. Kids in the basements, when they have all their toys laid out, that's fun and that's great for everyone, but even in a private home, if there is ever a fire, firefighters have to go into that home to extinguish the fire, and we want to be safe as well. So that's a huge safety thing that we can share with the family too, that it's not just for the family's safety, but for firefighters that have to go in.
But we're also looking, we'll go into, let's say, their furnace area where they may have their furnace, and if there's combustibles stored nearby, we talk to them about keeping that dryer lint trap emptied out. A lot of other, I'd like to say, common sense things, but sometimes during the hustle and bustle, people kind of forget those things.
And the smoke detectors too. We check them while we're there, and 9 times out of 10, it needs to be fixed. So we'll recommend that as well.
And we do have some residents in the community that may not be able to afford a smoke detector, and tell the audience what we do for that.
Sure. The fire department will provide free smoke detectors, and then we'll also come out to install them under certain circumstances. There's a form that they can request to fill out, and we will provide that.
Yeah. And actually, we have a lot of prevention programs where the emergency run that's coming up, the 5K run, many of the proceeds from that actually go back into the community because we purchased those smoke detectors with those dollars. So it's nothing that we have to budget for, but it's something that we do provide if there's a need.
Yeah.
How about with our growing mature population, our older adults that we have in the community? We've taken another step forward in prevention in terms of some senior and fall safety inspections. Can we talk a little bit about that?
It's very similar to the home inspections for private residents. We will go in and assist the seniors in checking their detectors, recommend any kind of safety things in their home as well. Some of the senior facilities that we have, they are subject to our fire inspection, just like any public businesses. And while we're there, we usually try to promote that as well. We'll offer to go into their condo or apartment and take a look at their safety as well.
Because as we get older, we're more susceptible for trips, for falls, so we try to encourage them to have rubber-backed rugs on the floor and making sure there's no cords, electrical cords, phone cords, things like that. And if we can prevent a shoulder injury, a hip replacement, or something like that, we're just continuing to make No.VI a healthier place to be.
Sure. Even some of the seniors are on home oxygen, so we recommend some safety practices with their oxygen tanks in their home. That's a big component.
Well, Andy, I appreciate you coming here today and sharing your knowledge and your expertise from not only a fire prevention background, but also an inspection. And a lot of things sometimes goes overlooked is the fact that you're still a fire operator as well. And in the event we have fires, that you shift mode from an inspection and prevention kind of paradigm to where you're actually going out and not only delivering EMS services, but extinguishing fires as well. So a lot of good information with our senior home inspections, with our home inspection to make your home safer, make your children, your family safer. Great information on the fireworks, and I appreciate you coming out today, and certainly appreciate all you do for our community every single day.
Thank you, Chief.
And to you, the viewing audience, I appreciate you turning in to Firehouse number 6 and continue to watch No.VI Television.